Let me take one step back. Your resume is a marketing version of your experience. You can say whatever you want on it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Workplace Weirdness, the non-HR HR podcast where we dive into the strangest office situations and most awkward workplace dramas. I'm your host, Maya Kadar-Kowalski, and I'm a former Chief Culture Officer and Head of People. I've seen and heard it all, so truly no judgments. So let's get real and explore the cringy, confusing, and chaotic side of office life. Today, we're discussing dead on arrival job applications, the frustration of sudden external hires, and what's in a name. I'm joined today by Kat Kibben. Kat is an award-winning writer, keynote speaker, and recruiting expert focused on human-centered hiring. They're the founder and CEO of 3 Ears Media, where they help teams write unbiased job postings and improve talent acquisition. With 15 plus years at companies like Monster.com and Randstand, Kat is a LinkedIn top voice and a trusted expert on leadership and the future of hiring. Kat, I'm really delighted to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me, you've built a career around language. And by that, I mean the kind of language that goes into job descriptions. What's the biggest mistake you see companies make when they're writing their job postings, and how can they fix it?
Well, I think the starting point to so many challenges that we face in recruiting, and I'm confident you ran into this too in your life, is that we never define what good means. And job postings suffer the most at that because we have people coming from all different backgrounds, all different industries, all different lived experiences. And they come back and they say, I want to write a job posting, and they write it their way. Instead of us all focused on what good means, what we need to communicate, and making sure that that actually shows up on the paper. And often the most simple way to get that course correction is, number one, tell them what good means. But secondly, we need to stop letting hiring managers and people who are not experts in hiring own hiring data. And job postings are most certainly hiring data in an AI world. And so I think it's really about upskilling the recruiter, upskilling the person who owns hiring, instead of trying to upskill everybody and expecting everyone to be an expert in hiring. All bad job postings, they all have the same things in common. The number one is the buzzwords. Highly collaborative team players to join our group of rock stars and accelerate the future, right? And the real issue with those words is not that you're using a buzzword, right? Maybe I am looking for a collaborator. Maybe I do want a team player. It's because we provide no context, and those words do not have universal meaning. Collaborative at a company of 3 and collaborative at a company of 30,000 are two entirely different skills. The second thing it does is it massively exaggerates the mandatory requirements. This happened a couple of years ago when someone asked for like 15 plus years of experience with a specific code language, but the code had not existed that long. They're just making it up.
Right, totally. And it's also, that's why there's sometimes frustration when people arrive at a role and all of a sudden it's just like not what was on paper at all, not what was described. And
Statistically, 36%, I believe, of people who believe that the interview and the job description did not align with their expectations of what a day-to-day looked like, they quit in the first 90 days. And if someone quits in the first 90 days, it costs 1/3 of their first year salary to backfill that role. When you look at recruiter time, individual contribution, their contribution to the bottom line of the business, often that number actually creeps up, not going down. Your profitability often lies in that margin. And that's why so many people say, like, people are our most important asset, and people don't know what that means. That's the kind of data point that helps us contextualize what we mean when we say people are our most important asset. It's not just their productivity. It's not just their humanity. It's also the consequence of bad culture and how that engine impacts the real P&L that everyone says and knows is highly important in order for our business to function and be able to exist 5 or 10 years from now.
you've had a really interesting career path, and I heard that you were the first social media hire at Monster.com. How was working at Monster.com?
It was a really unique experience, right? Because I was working there during the Super Bowl era. I got to work on a Super Bowl campaign
That's amazing.
in the first 5 years of my career. Exactly, right? And to have an experience like that, I think what was so special about it now in reflection of my whole career is that it fundamentally gave me an understanding of the relationship between job seekers and job boards and technology and recruiters, right? This kind of triangle between how people who want work and people who want to hire use technology to facilitate that relationship. And even deeper than that, like the emotional context, because that's what social media was back then. It wasn't just some corporate shouter, right? We were trying to be helpful. It's so noisy now versus back then when it was you felt like you were making deep connections. You were actually talking to people. There was not this like invisible wall between you and an influencer. They were people just like you and they would respond. And I think there's such a parallel to recruitment marketing now because that noise has moved its way into the job boards. It's moved its way into LinkedIn. It's just so noisy.
So how did you come to recruiting and hiring? How did this become one of your passions?
At 28, I have the job title that I was aspiring to before 40. I had accomplished the things. I moved to a big city. I had done the things I thought I was supposed to do, and I just felt so unhappy. I decided to kind of like pursue the work I loved, which was that relationship between the candidate, the technology, and recruiter. And so I went and became a managing editor of a blog about recruiting. That was like getting a PhD because all I did was talk to smart people, write about it, create webinars, create learning, talk to smart people, write about it, create documentation, right? And I got the itch. From there, I went and I was a technical copywriter working with the Honeywells of the world, the Walmarts, and helping them translate what their people say into hiring content that makes people like them want to work there.
You found the problem that you love to solve and you did it over and over and over again. And like you said, you also learned to sort of love the people that you were working with or the fact that you were learning and like other aspects of the job. That's what made it something to look forward to every day, right?
No matter what I was doing, I kept writing close because it's the thing that I love. And to this day, people ask, like, how do you write so much content? Like, how do you create so much stuff? And it's like, I love it.
Right. I'm curious now that we have ChatGPT and people have become much more prolific thanks to AI, is it still a competitive advantage to be a writer or not? I'm curious.
1000%. That stuff, it all sounds the same, right? That job posting is bad because they all make the same mistakes. Well, that writer, you're all going to sound the exact same. You're going to use the same techniques. They might not be the same mistakes. And there's absolutely no way to stand out sounding like everyone else.
So tell me about what brought you to travel America in a van.
When I decided to do van life, it was a response to how I was reacting to uncertainty in my life. I found myself sitting in an apartment, a beautiful apartment with a view of the Rocky Mountains. I'm in Colorado, where I had always dreamed of being. I'm running my own business. And I don't feel any different. And it's not like I hated my life or something. I just didn't feel whole on it. So I planned to have breakfast with one friend. We had a friend who was just passing through. Do you mind if they come to the breakfast? Of course not, right? They're living in a van. My brain is like, I have so many questions. Do you work? Do you have internet? How do you do this? Whatever. And so I started that night. I remember doing some like investigation to see, could I do this? And a couple months down the road, I had a business coach and I remember asking her, do you think I could do it? And she was like, why not? It was life altering for me because I never considered that I could just do it. I think I bought the van in October and I left on December 22nd.
Yeah. And you know what? We all need those people in our lives that tell us, why not?
Exactly.
I just love that. I think it just shows you how you can plan and plan and plan, and then life will always pop up with its surprises. And it's all about that mindset. Sort of telling yourself that no matter what happens, I have the skills to get through this. Before we continue, I want to break for just a second to ask listeners to follow and subscribe to the podcast. It really helps the show grow and helps us bring you more weird work conversations. What was your weirdest workplace moment? And by that, I mean it could be anything from an aha moment to a really embarrassing moment.
I think back to how I got my first social media job. And the way that I got into social media, I was hired as a marketing associate. The VC, the like primary funder, the guy who sat at the head of our board, walked through our office one day and he had a British accent and and I'm not going to do a fake British accent, but just picture it. And
Although that would be fun.
not if you heard my accent impressions, but he would just pop his head into offices and ask questions because he was that kind of person. And he pops his head in and he goes, "How many Facebook friends do you have?" And I remember being like, "I don't know, like 1,000 maybe?" Because I had just graduated college and I was one of the kids who was like in the college Facebook. Now everybody knows how old I am, right? I had just graduated college when Facebook was just for college kids. And he goes, "Okay, you're social media now." So whenever people are like, "Well, I'm waiting for my opportunity," I'm like, no. Start asking questions and start giving answers. I think it's important too for anyone who's listening to this as a job seeker to remember that like big heart energy matters. There's an element of divinity in everything that we show up in, but there's also an element of individual in which the more that you are you
Yeah.
in every place you show up, that energy translates.
Yeah. And I'm also going to put in a vote for the more that you get up out of the house, put on a pair of pants, and get to a place. We do a lot from behind, the screen, but we've usually earned it by being not in front of the screen for part of that time. Before we get to our listener questions, let's stay up to date with the week in work. This is our take on recent trends in the workplace that are changing how we work or how we think about work life. Everyone's talking about the tough job market now and how disheartening the application process is. So, since Kat's an expert on hiring and language, we wanted to get an idea of how people might get their applications through the filters of the hiring team. So, a recent Reddit post highlights the issue, and it goes like this: hundreds of applications, 0 replies. What's the point? I applied to 200 jobs, got 2 interviews. I spend hours on every application and get ghosted. I'm qualified. I tailor my resume and still nothing. It's starting to feel like the system isn't broken, just designed to ignore you unless you already know someone. Job boards are flooded, applicant tracking systems filter you out, and even when you do everything right, you're competing with hundreds of other resumes that look just like yours. So, Kat, when candidates submit hundreds of applications and hear nothing back, what's really happening on the employer side?
Yeah. So I think there's kind of 2 ways to look at this. And I want to start with the part you can control. That's you. Let's start with the candidate, then let's talk about the recruiter. A trope and a myth inside the world of job search is that there's a right way to do things. They kept talking about, "I did it right. I was qualified. I tailored my resume." When you're frustrated and you've poured so much of yourself into a process and you don't feel it or see it, it's really easy to get in this place where you say the system is broken. That's not good for you. It is not good for anyone who has to apply persistent effort over time to create an unbearable villain because the villain doesn't need a hero. It just is. Don't create a villain of the job search because it will put you at a disadvantage, and it is a disadvantage created by your brain. Persistent effort over time will help you. Right now, I think the data shows that over 40% of people with college graduates are underemployed, meaning they are working in a role where they do not have a degree. They don't need a degree to do the job. And they get about a 5% response rate. So 5% of interviews out of 100 applications, they get 1. The recruiter is not worried about the technology. The recruiter is worried about fake candidates. And I think what we're seeing right now is a misalignment in job seekers are doing things that make them look fake.
Okay.
Recruiters are over indexing on indicators they believe indicate this person is fake because they're using that as a sorting mechanism to say, well, these are fake, so I don't even need to look at those. And a lot of the tactics that people are using right now, like the putting all the words in white at the bottom, organizing your resume in a really unique way, trying to change all of your job titles, creating an AI headshot, creating an AI resume, all of that is making you look like a fake candidate. And a lot of older candidates who are over indexing on AI right now are actually being marked as spam because they are using these tactics that are now indicating to the machine you might be fake?
I love it because I'm real too often sometimes. In other words, I
You and
make
me
so
both.
many mistakes that it's a little bit sad. Um, I'm feeling really good about that all of a sudden. So thanks, Kat. That's all you. Before we get to our listener questions, I want to mention that if you have a workplace question, go to our website at workplace-weirdness.com and click on Share Your Story. We'd love to hear from you. I'm here with author and recruitment expert Kat Kibben. Kat, here's our first listener question. Maya, I've been at my company for a few years and have been told by my manager that I'm on track for growth. A few weeks ago, a role opened up on a neighboring team that would have been a clear next step for me. It's the same function, more scope, exactly the kind of progression I've been asking about in one on ones. I later found out from a friend on that team that the role was filled without ever being posted internally. No announcement, no chance to apply. When I asked about it, he told me that he doesn't know details, but just knows that it moved quickly. They haven't officially announced it. Should I still try to fight for it? Also, why does this even happen? From excluded. So, this is a great question, Kat. It definitely happens a lot. Why would a company not mention this role internally?
Yeah. Well, let me say first, do not fight for it anymore. It's done. If they've already sent out an offer, it's done. Do not waste your energy on that. So imagine you are a leader. You have someone on your team who does all the right things. They turn everything in on time. They hit every goal. They're an overachiever, all of this. Why would I want to get rid of you?
It's true.
Don't get me wrong. There's so many amazing leaders out there who are like, I am willing to sacrifice our goal to help you grow in your career, but that's not most leaders. I hate to say it. And so I think the lesson here for anyone is number one, decide what kind of leader you want to be. And so in the future, when you have this opportunity, I think it's really, really important for you to create space for growth, to always create paths in and out of your team. Alternatively, you need to have a conversation with your manager about your goals that is more explicit than saying, I'm on track. So what I would be asking for is I specifically want you to tell me exactly what areas I need to grow on before I get here. If this or this opens up inside of this company, I want to be first in line. And you need to be more explicit about your goals because they're making decisions that are explicitly about their goals.
The one thing I want to say is that once this new person comes on board, I want to also encourage the listener to look at their skills and try to make sure that you are in a position to have taken on this role. Are there added skills that maybe this person brought into the company? Are they coming from an outside place where they have different kinds of knowledge, et cetera? Just to keep open-minded and to keep learning so that you have even more to bring to this type of role if it were to open up again. Thank you, Kat. And listener, best of luck to you. And I really think that, if you take this approach, it can really change your whole point of view and your outlook going forward. So good luck. Our next question is from a listener who's found a way to get their applications through the filters, but is it legal? Okay, that sounds interesting. Here we go. Hi, Maya. Over 6 months, I was spending every waking moment applying for jobs and getting no responses. I have a master's degree in a tech field. I also have a very ethnic and difficult to pronounce name. One day, about a month ago, I had enough and changed my first name completely on both resume and applications. Suddenly, I was getting interviews. I've completed the final rounds of interviews for 2 prospective jobs, and I should hear back on decisions soon. My issue is this. For some applications, I did not define my new name as a preferred name because the application didn't give me that option. So I just put my new name in the legal name slot. What will happen when it comes to a background check? Will this be a reason for them to rescind an offer? Also, should I just tell everyone my real name on my first day to avoid confusion?
My first instinct is, honestly, I would start collecting some of those resumes and probably look into scenarios in which I applied in one scenario with one name and one with another, and I got a different response. That's actually the standard of a class action suit and an employment lawsuit because that is against the law. But let's get to the actual question, which is, if I do a background check and the name is not assigned as preferred, am I going to lose my job? So Here, let me take one step back because I think it's important to understand how a background check gets run, and the fact that you will never have a background check run on you without your permission. That's not allowed either.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to be given a form in which you have to fill out all the little details, and that has to be 100% accurate. Your resume is a marketing version of your experience. You can say whatever you want on it as long as it's not an outright misrepresentation of the time that you spent at an organization by misrepresenting the dates or the name. Everything else is up for legal interpretation and it will not get you fired. So, what I would tell you is number one, when you fill out the background check, you're going to fill out the document that you have to get this background check completed. If you notice when you get the background check that it has any customization fields that are not correct. So, if it says Dear First Name and they're using the preferred name, not the legal name, you need to forward that to HR and say, I used a preferred name. My legal name is this. Can you please resubmit the background check with my legal name?
Right. And
That's
not be
it.
embarrassed about it. There's nothing to really be embarrassed about. I wanted to say from many years in the
Yes.
field, people, and not for the same reasons, use their preferred name because it is their preferred name. You use whatever name you prefer in the job. I mean, you
Exactly.
were able to get the job through a little bit of, understanding this element of bias, but you don't have to live that way. You can decide to be, whoever you want to be in the day to day. And that's not the reason why that, you were accepted to the job or not.
Yeah. And don't be scared of HR. If you need something, ask. If you need to clarify something, just tell them, right? They're not making these sweeping decisions behind the scenes because you made a mistake. Don't be so scared.
You're not going to get in trouble for exploiting loopholes and unconscious bias. So every week we dig into one question that's a little more icky than the rest. This week, when your hard work gets promoted without you. This week's cringeworthy question comes from a disillusioned mentor. Dear Workplace Weirdness, I spent months mentoring someone for my current role because I was told I'd get promoted soon. Then, out of nowhere, they promoted that person instead. I feel like I just trained someone to take my career. I'm ready to report my manager to the VP. What's the best way to handle this without completely burning the bridge or looking like a drama queen? From Slapped in the Face.
Ooh, that is ugly. I feel like you are working at a company that's toxic. If they even put you in a situation like that and made promises around your work developing someone else and this being what happened next, I think that is a red flag if I've ever heard one. I want to get at the last part because what I'm hearing is someone who's rightfully upset but does not want to be categorized as someone who has overreactions or is too emotional. And maybe you've gotten that feedback before. When I hear someone call themselves a drama queen, I'm like, over something that is dramatic, I'm like, oh, people aren't nice to you about your feelings. Personally, I think you probably need to name your feelings by yourself first. So whatever you do to therapize, psychologically help yourself go from a 10 to a 2, you need to do that. You need to get to that point where you can have a conversation about this story without feeling wildly out of control. Because I imagine that's how you feel right now. You want to rage. When you can do that, I think you need to do an exercise that I really love. We call it the need, feel, want. I write down I need, I feel, I want. Usually I start with I feel, then I need, and then I want. You feel until you're done feeling, like until the gas tank is clicking. No more gas, right? And then you go to the either want or need, whatever you kind of naturally guide to, and then whatever you naturally guide to last, whatever's left over. And what I find is that you will figure out what you need, and that will help you figure out how to do the thing that you need. So if what you need is for your manager to acknowledge that that was messy and not okay, I think you can get there. But maybe what you need is to have a promotion plan that helps you get where you want to be on a specific timeline. Whatever you need, I think that entry can be a really good self work to do first before you go and have this conversation, in which you follow the instructions we gave that first listener, which is you name your emotions, You explain what you need to see happen next and really focus on having a clear and concise conversation that does not require them to validate your feelings or explain why.
Similar to what you said, I felt really upset for this person. I think it's actually cruel for the manager to do this, to like train someone and then let them take their job. I don't know what's gone down since, the listener has sent in the letter, but this made my red flags like go up. And I said, I don't like this at all. I feel like maybe you're being phased out of your job in some way. And if that is the case, like start looking around.
At a minimum, listener, I just hope you feel seen and validated by both of us that this is 100% screwy. There's something that smells off about this, and it's something is not right, and you are reacting to something that is messed up.
Well said, well put. Thank you, Kat, for all of your expertise here on that. That, believe it or not, is our show today, Kat. Wasn't that a great one?
It was amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I want to thank you for coming here today and discussing the fascinating role of language in hiring. Any last thoughts before we go?
No, I really appreciate you making space and asking such thoughtful questions. So thank you so much for doing that. And if anyone wants to connect, I'm the only Katrina Kibben in the world. So if you spell my name right, you will find me. If you spell my name wrong, you will find a priest from the U.S. House of Representatives, and you will know that you were in the wrong place. And so you can go to katrinakibben.com or three, like the number, ears, like the ones on your head, 3earsmedia.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. If you've got some weirdness in the workplace, please go to our website at workplace-weirdness.com and click on Share Your Story. We might feature your question in an upcoming episode. This is Maya Kadar-Kowalski reminding you to embrace the quirks and make the most out of the office chaos. In the meantime, keep working, and whenever possible, stay weird. Today's show was produced by me, Maya Kadar-Kowalski, and Felicia Wang, and written by Dana Burnell Lowe. Ohad Salmon is our strategist, and Barry Rowan is our digital media specialist. Thank you to our production partners at Podify. A special thanks to Kat Kibben for joining us on today's episode. Also, thanks to you for listening to Workplace Weirdness. Make sure you're subscribed to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back next time for another breakdown of all things weird from a workplace near you.